أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Inshallah, today we'll start a new program titled The Themes of the Quran. Now, the point of the program is not to do tafsir, is not to explain every single verse of the Quran, but to understand the main themes of the main themes of the Quran. Each surah, what's the main theme in the surah? What is the common theme? Put it on mute. What is the common theme of the surah? How the name of the surah relate to the themes, and certain things at a high level. Now, this personally has helped me personally understand the Quran, is because a lot of times you read the Quran, you have a lot of verses. I mean, you look at the verses, and if you're not paying attention, you think the verses have no relation to each other. It's like, because that's the style of the Quran. You cannot grab it. It grabs you, and every time you read it, you get a different meaning out of it. But if you know the main theme of the surah, then it helps you understand the stories in the surah, how all the pieces of the surah serve the main theme. So that is very, very helpful. And this is not my personal work. This is the work of ulama. The Dr. Amr Khalid of Egypt, and he has most of the materials. And the last 4 juz' of the Quran, when we start, the first 26 juz', we're going to take every surah and just go over it. But the last 4 juz', inshallah, we'll take the smaller surahs and we'll go almost verse by verse to get a little deeper. And that content is from Dr. Ratib al-Nabulsi. He's a big sheikh in Syria. So that's the material, most of the material for this program is from those 2 sources. Now, of course, they're in Arabic, so I had to, convert them and kind of concise them into what fits in a 20-minute meeting. So today, inshallah, we'll just have an introduction, and then, inshallah, from next week, we'll start with the Surah Al-Fatiha. Now, some of the main points is the Quran is the word of Allah. So it is, it's revealed on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to understand it is, we can only understand a little bit of it. It's an endless sea, and we're only dipping a little pen, and the water that comes out is the knowledge we get, because Allah's knowledge is infinite, just like He is. So the Quran is His words, and His words are infinite, just like He is. So the Quran is divided into 30 sections, 30 juz', and it has 114 surahs. And the organization of those surahs were not by chance. The angel Jibreel used to sit with the Prophet ﷺ, and after the Quran was all revealed, he would sit and say, no, this surah comes first, this one after this surah. So the order of the surahs was a revelation from Allah through Jibreel. The names of the surahs were also from Allah through the angel Jibreel. So these were were all dictated. It wasn't by chance. Now, every surah, if you think of the word surah, sur is like a fence. So surah acts like a fence that encloses that particular chapter, and it preserves its theme, and all the verses serve that theme. So that's one way to understand how each surah is, and the name of each surah has to do with the theme of it too, as we'll start seeing as we go through the surahs. The stories in each surah serve the theme. When you look at, for a good example, stories about Prophet Musa alayhi salam, so many verses, so many chapters have snippets of his life. Now, the stories of Prophet Musa in each chapter serves the purpose of that chapter. That's why it's spread out in many places, because Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala only gives us enough to understand and to serve the theme of the topic that he's trying to tell us. Even the tempo and feel, if you understand Arabic, like if you read Surah Maryam, the beginning of Surah Maryam, it's talking about kids. It's talking about a very gentle and loving concept that people have. The verses are very gentle, very gentle. I mean, even the tempo, and if you understand the Arabic, it's beautiful. I mean, it's very soft and very gentle. And when Allah Ta'ala is talking about the unbelievers and the punishment, فَدَمْدَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ. I mean, even the Arabic sounds, it feels tough. So, I mean, the Quran is just incredible. And if we understand just a little bit, we'll benefit so much from it. Because Allah Ta'ala says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا, in Surah Muhammad, verse 24. Then do they not reflect upon the Quran, or are there locks upon their hearts? Like I said, the Quran is deep. It has no bottom. It's endless. So, nobody can claim to have the final explanation of any verse. You may think you know what the verse is. Only Allah knows what that verse means. Because there are so many verses that Sahaba alayhim salatu wassalam, they didn't know. I mean, they accepted the verse, they didn't understand it. Years later, as science and discoveries, now we understand it. Maybe 200 years from now, somebody else will have a different understanding of the same verse. So nobody has any lock on the meaning of the verses. All we can do is try to understand them based on what the Prophet says, what the ulama and all the tabi'een that came after him, and that's the best we can do. Allah Ta'ala set the chapter names and the order himself, and there are no extra words in the Quran. Not even a vowel. Every word has a place. Every vowel has a purpose. So as we'll see as we go through some of the surahs. And the Quran is valid and suitable for all times and all ages. You see sometimes people now say, oh, the Quran was good 1400 years ago, it's no longer applicable. That's a lie. The Quran is applicable till the day of judgment, because that's Allah's guidance to mankind. That's our manual for man from Prophet Muhammad until the end of time. And before him there were many books that Allah Ta'ala, when he created us, he did not leave us without guidance. So guidance was in one form or another. And there were so many books. But inshallah, when we talk about the Surah Al-Fatiha, we'll go a little bit more into how the books got concised into the Quran. Now, this one topic I mentioned in a khutbah a few weeks ago, that the Quran, the chapters in the Quran are classified into either a Makki or a Madani, depending on where it was revealed. But what's a bigger classification is the Makki surahs that were revealed in Mecca. They all deal with matters of Aqidah, of creed. They're talking about refuting the unbelievers, getting to know Allah and to know the stature of Allah. That's the focus of many of the Makki surahs. And that's why you see in the last few juz', and those are the ones we're going to go into more deeply. The Madani, the ones that are revealed in Medina, they're the longer one, like Surah Al-Baqarah and Al-Imran and Nisa. They have a lot of commands, a lot of laws. So they contain, they deal with hypocrites and interacting with people from other faiths. So what we understand from those two classifications is the path to know Allah has to go through two phases. One phase is you have to know who Allah is. You have to, from His signs, from observing from observing the universe, from observing His creation. Because anything you focus on will lead you to Allah. So that's the phase one. The second phase is once you know Allah, now get to know His command and what He wants from you. If you know one or the other, but without knowing the other, it doesn't help you. If you know there's a God, there's many people that they agree there's a God, but they don't want to know His commands and they don't want to follow them. It doesn't help you. And it doesn't help to go tell somebody, pray, without them understanding who are they praying for, to. Who are they praying to? Who's going to take, judgment and take account? They don't know. If they don't know, they'll figure out ways to go around it. But when you know, who it is you're praying to, and you know the proper steps and the proper commands to apply, that's what makes a good believer. And you need both of these to keep you grounded. Because if you know one but not the other, Islam becomes rituals. You have a Quran, mashallah, and you have a big library with Quran and all kinds of books that you don't read. It becomes a big beard and a gown. I mean, it becomes rituals. Islam is much more than that. When you the miracle of the Quran is in reading it, understanding it, and implementing it. You have to have all three. So you have to read it, understand it, and implement it. Without implementing it, you're not going to reap the fruit. So the miracle of the Quran, when you think of it, is many people, think the Arabic is perfect. That's the miracle of the Quran. Well, that's one part of it. But the perfection in the Quran is, yes, it's the perfection of its language. One of the miracles is you're never tired of it. You read it, and you want to read it some more. You never get tired of it. Get any book. You read it one time, you don't want to read it again. If you read it the second time, the third time, you get bored. You never get bored with the book of Allah because He designed it that way, in such a way that He knows us. He knows what guidance will keep us attracted to His book and to Him. And the perfection of its content is part of its miracle. You look at it, it was revealed over 23 years. There are no discrepancies anywhere. I mean, take any book that they may take a year to write. You'll have discrepancies because what the author was thinking at the beginning, after a year, they have a different, and then now, discrepancies start creeping into the content. There are no contradictions. There are nothing that contradicts in those 23 years. You have a cohesive, miraculous book. But this is all true, and nobody can dispute that. But the ongoing miracle, the Quran is till the end of time. It's not a miracle at one point in time. It's a miracle till the end of time. The miracle of the Quran is you read it, you understand it, you implement it. Allah will make you somebody who is fit to be a leader on this earth. As we'll see in Surah Al-Baqarah, that Allah created man to be a Khalifa, to be in charge of this earth. If you implement the Quran correctly, you are fit to lead. This is at the individual level. At the nation level, when the whole nation does that, now that nation is fit to lead. As we saw with the Sahaba alayhim salam. They understood the Quran, they implemented it, and they ruled the world, that at their time in 30 years. When we strayed away from the Quran, we declined again, and here we are. So the miracle of the Quran is you implement it in your life, and Allah will raise you. The community implements it, that community is fit to lead. And now it deserves the support and the victory of Allah because they are doing exactly what Allah created us to do. Is we're on this earth, we have to understand who our Lord is, what His commands, what He wants from us, and how we're supposed to act while we're on this earth. If we understand that, then we are fit to lead. And then we'll reap the benefits of this faith. Because the Quran and Islam, it's a way of life. I mean, you can't just pick and choose. You have to implement all of it to reap its benefits. So if we understand Islam to be just a 5 pillar, you just make shahada and pray and make hajj and that's it. No, these are the pillars. There's a whole building. There's a moral building that sits on top of those pillars. And that's good manners, good behavior, obedience, helping others. All of these things build on top of those 5 pillars. So the deen is much more than that, and the Quran gives us all of these teachings. When you start looking at the surahs, every surah corrects one aspect of the human nature. So every surah, if you implement that surah, it fixes this portion of your nafs. You implement this one, by the time you implement the whole Quran, you're a perfect human being, like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the walking Quran. When they were asking Sayyida Aisha to describe him, he said he was the walking Quran. His behavior, the way he acted exactly what's in the Quran. When we get to that stage, that's when we reap the full benefits, of the Quran and of Islam. So again, just to summarize, that the goal of the program is not to do tafsir on every verse. Inshallah, we'll do that in the last 3-4 ajza, because it's the surahs are small, but they are very deep in meaning. But in the first 26 juz', we're going to take the chapters and we're going to understand the theme. What is the main theme? And then we start pointing to the verses that point to that theme. See, this theme serves the verse. This theme, serves it. This means, and then how the name of the surah, works together. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لكم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. وارنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون احسنه وادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله.